We are live. What's going on, everybody? I am tweeting out this link as I speak, but two things at once. You can't beat it. Wednesday, August 28th, 11 game slate. I was hoping for a little bit more sizable early, but two-gamer, not going to be all that much fun. Coming in off of the monster 15-game slate that, I don't know, it existed. But any thoughts on last night's ridiculousness, Adam?
No.
Yeah, I don't. It kind of just like came and went.
So
Nothing crazy happened.
I do have thoughts roster construction wise. I think that. So I mean I got my ass kicked, but I think that roster construction wise it went how I expected it to on DraftKings. The problem was that the two cheap pitchers that I had the most of were two of the worst options. But you definitely gave yourself an advantage if you passed up on a lot of the top range pitching and just mixed and matched the low guys, the cheap guys, because like you had Drew Smiley was popular and Adrian Hauser was popular, but like Miles Michaelis was 5%.
Yeah.
Mike Montgomery was like 3% or something. If you were mixing and matching those guys and getting a lot of good hitters into your lineup, it I think was the optimal roster construction. But for the most, a lot of the cheap pitchers were really low owned.
Yeah, Michaelis 5.2% in the $11 last night. Went for 33.
Yeah, like I was double the field on Michaelis. I wish that I had obviously been more than that, but like it wasn't difficult to be double the field on Michaelis and Leak and Montgomery and all those guys.
Yeah. Oh God. So obviously Bueller had the day that everybody expected. 35
Right.
fantasy points. That went as advertised, but at the same time, was he necessary?
Right. Like he was necessary because there were some really good bats that were cheap, and you just happened to have them with Bueller, but you didn't have to have Bueller to win the tournament.
Right. Now,
if
the winning lineup did have Bueller, so did the lineup in second, but I mean, that's basically it for him being scattered around, and those aren't the reasons that they won.
Right.
You can see Michaelis, Heaney, Fires, Castillo, Plutko, Tanaka, Brooks, Pineda. I'm naming all these guys that are in like the top 15 lineups. You could have basically had anybody.
Yeah, and I think that goes to the point where, speaking more generally and not talking about just last night's slate where we had all those cheap pitchers, on bigger slates, it's less necessary to pay all the way up to the top for pitching, just based on sheer numbers.
Yeah.
You might not be able to always pick which cheap pitcher or mid-range pitcher is going to do well, but when you have 20 of them going, some of them are going to have big games.
And that's exactly how it shook out yesterday. You could have had a combination of 7, 8, 9 guys and had like a relatively similar outcome for all of it. But you needed to make sure that you had the Indians, which I feel like we didn't even talk about the Indians yesterday across the board.
Alex liked them.
Yeah, of course he did.
I don't know if he played them, but he mentioned at least that he thought they were an intriguing stack.
Let's see how much Indians the boss had. Order P. Oh, I mean, actually, Indians weren't even the top scoring stack. It was the Astros.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure none of us even mentioned them.
No, not at all. They had 12%, 13% total exposure. That's additive, not like any other way. And not out of 100. Alex had 2.8% of Houston. You had essentially none. Alex was neutral to the field on Cleveland. Alex's biggest stand was Oakland, 300 total percent, and I agreed with it too. Yeah. So
what was mine? Oakland, Boston.
Yep, Boston number 1, Oakland 2, Atlanta 3, which is a hill that I died on with you.
Yep.
And then obviously 4 was Washington, which that went real well.
Yep.
I mean, I love the Nats. I took Matt Adams as my dong pick. Emac took Luis Soto to start. Meant Juan Soto, but that was a fun little bit.
Yeah.
That didn't go well.
Yeah, the Nats were frustrating for me because I really liked them I liked them all day. I liked them on the show. And then whatever changed in projections or ownership projections or whatever between the show and lock, I was getting like no Nats. And I was just like, nope, not doing this. So I bumped the Nats back up, made sure I still got to the Nats, and got what I deserved.
Oh, God. What ended up shaking out for Boston? I never looked. Okay, Mookie Betts with 2, obviously.
Yeah, he had a nice 415-foot fly out to the wall in center too, with 2 guys on.
Boston was significantly less owned than I would have expected.
They came in exactly like I thought they would. Mookie, JD, those guys like really popular.
Yeah.
Bogart's not as popular because he's the same position as Story and Turner. And then the bottom of the order, just nothing.
Yeah, like Mookie, JD, Devers, 18% to 22%. But Holt, Moreland, Jackie Bradley, and Vasquez, all sub 10%. Bogart's 11% too. I mean, in hindsight, actually, I probably have it, so it doesn't really matter. I would want to have like 30% of all of those dudes.
Right. Yeah.
I love your exposures for that.
When I first saw the ownership on like Mookie and Devers, I was just like, God, you're such an idiot. Like, why did you just go overweight on one team and with 30 offenses going? And then I saw the Vasquez, Holt, Bradley ownerships, and I was like, oh yeah, that was why.
Yeah. And it looks great. I mean, Monster implied they were the clear top stack from an overall perspective. And they're going to be again today. Nothing's going to change. So anxious to see what that ownership looks like today in relationship to yesterday. Probably doesn't hurt that they didn't go like crazy. It was the pieces that, like the things that didn't go well, Betts, JD, and Devers are the pieces that are going to like piss people off.
Right.
So I'm hoping that nobody's like, oh, I can't believe I didn't get the Jackie Bradley today. Like,
right.
Hopefully it softens the blow for Boston today because they're going to be my most owned stack once again. But we'll get to that.
Man, you can tell it's late August baseball. I'm like scrolling through the games for the first time, and I'm just like, who is this pitcher? Who is this pitcher? Who is this pitcher?
Yeah, we're getting there. 3-4 days, right? Before before more teams look like the Orioles and the Tigers.
Yeah, exactly. And before your stacks start being really frustrating because they bring in their entire AAA team in the 6th inning after they score 10 runs.
Yeah, when you only accumulate points in the first 6 innings of the game.
Yep.
The best. B Stone 2 takes down the $11 last night on DraftKings. 3 lineups.
Fun.
Yeah. Michaelis Bueller, 5-man Indians, 3-man Rockies. Couple 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 one-off lineups in the top 10. I love this, man. I love this.
You mean like non-stacked lineups?
No, just like single bullets.
Oh, okay.
Third place was a 2-2 stack. Zaven in YouTube chat. Where can I find percentages owned by the top players like you guys are looking at what Alex had? This is lineup study, FC Pro. Head to awesemo.com and sign up, and then sign up for the FC Pro add-on. Definitely do that. Alrighty, let's get the plugs up. What's up?
I just saw that Stunners lineup came in second.
Yeah.
Like the complete opposite roster construction of how I expected. Like Bueller paid up for Bueller and Heaney.
Yeah.
And then stacked Cincy. But he got the Bradley home run. And he got 13 from Moreland.
Yeah, not the one-off Isan Diaz too.
Yeah.
MLB Strategy is the promo code, 50% off your first month with us. Any monthly package you choose, including packages with Fantasy Cruncher. So if you want to sign up and get Awesemo Plus and all of the premium content that we have to offer, use the promo code MLB Strategy to get that 50% off. And we are brought to you by Yahoo Sports. I'm dropping the link into YouTube chat right now for Emacs Spotlight Hitters and Stacks article. You can check it out. There's some information here at the top, which I'm highlighting on the screen. Well, kind of like waving my mouse over top of it, but whatever. Gives you some instructions on how to sign up for Yahoo, and you can use the promo code AWESEMO and get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports rewards points. As good as cash, gets you into their no management fee contest. It's a 10 max site. You don't have to compete against 150 lineups. They've got a fantastic week 1 NFL no management fee contest set up. It's probably the contest I'll pay most attention to over week 1 Sunday NFL. So check it all out. Check out the link that I posted in chat and go sign up at Yahoo. I don't even want to talk about this. You ready?
Yeah.
Nats and Orioles. Let's do this again. 5.9 run implied total for the Nationals, 3 for the Orioles, 78% chance to win for Washington. Max Scherzer back on the hill for the Nats. Woj going for the Orioles. This is really surprising to me, and I think that it'll probably come down throughout the day unless we get more information. Scherzer, 58% owned on Yahoo as the most expensive pitcher on the slate. 20% on FanDuel, 43 on DraftKings. I don't think that this holds in any form. I haven't seen anything that says that Scherzer just has the reins released. I don't get the sense that he's going to go the full freight today. I have him in for 5.5 innings right now, which still makes him look solid, but not like someone I want to have 40% of the time. He's really good, but I think I would rather just pay $1,200 more for Cole, who can throw a complete game today.
Right. So here's the quote. It's on the DraftKings page for Max Scherzer if you want to read it, but it's from the 23rd. It says Scherzer returned from the injured list Thursday and allowed 1 run on 4 hits with 1 walk and 3 strikeouts, and he was able to complete his regular post-start work Friday with no problems. Still, the veteran right-hander admits he isn't fully in the clear and can't yet throw with maximum effort, per Mark Zuckerman of Masson Sports. He threw 71 pitches in that start. Seems really unlikely that he suddenly goes out there and is at 100-plus pitches.
Right. Against the Orioles.
Right.
Seems like a weird game to run him into the ground in the 6th and 7th. I think they'll be able to hold them off. Well, you
and
would
even
think.
if they're not,
What the fuck do I know?
August 28th.
Right. Yeah, like even if you give him another 15 pitches, he's still getting to like mid-5th, 6th inning at best.
It would be one thing if this were a slate like the other day when Sonny Gray was on it and there was just nothing outside of Sonny Gray.
Sonny Gray at 11 whatever, and then no one else until 8,900 or something.
Right, and you were just happy to take the raw points. There was obviously a chance that Gray broke the slate open, but even if he didn't, even if he did exactly what he did with his 21 points, you knew that was going to be one of the highest scores on the slate. That's not really the case today when you have Gerrit Cole at the top.
Yeah, I expect it to go down. I assume that everything that is being loaded in here is not adjusting for Scherzer having any sort of limited ability. It's simply just, this is how Max Scherzer would project if he were going the whole way. Now, having said that, there's like a small amount of Max Scherzer that I want. Because even Max Scherzer, if he can get to 6 innings efficiently against the Orioles, he can K a ton of dudes. Like, it's still a good matchup. But, I mean, if he's 43% owned, the more likely scenario is that I have 0 or 5% or something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if he gets down to like 5%, then it's like, okay, cool, I'll take double the field on Scherzer. But
Yeah, I don't expect any of that ownership to hold unless we get word that they're just letting him go. Like, he comes out and says, I'm just going to throw as much as I want now. I don't care. Because, I mean, of all the pitchers in the league, like, he's the crazy one that would be like, I'm going to do whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
Any Woj against the Nats seems like a tough spot.
Yeah, it is a tough spot. You know, I think his strikeout stuff's okay, but it's a really tough spot. And if the thing is, so he's 6,300 on DraftKings, which would be the site where he's obviously the most interesting because you have to roster 2 pitchers and because Yahoo generally does a better job of pricing up their basement pitchers, and then their like kind of top guys are a little bit cheaper usually. So I think it would mostly be DraftKings. But if you want to take a questionably talented pitcher in a questionable matchup, you can just save $2,300 and take Jurado or Perdomo at the minimum. They probably aren't going to do well, and Woj probably won't do well, but you're paying 33% more for Woj.
It's murky at the bottom today. I
It
accidentally tweeted out from the Osimo account this morning that I wish we can get some of those value pitchers from yesterday onto this slate. But I looked at it and I was like, wait, did I change my Twitter picture to the Osimo logo? Oh, I just tweeted it from the main account. Whoops.
Yeah,
that was me, guys. I don't normally do that, but I do have access. I don't get the sense that I'm going to get to Woj with any sort of regularity. Actually, I ran a dummy crunch for DraftKings, and I realized that I filtered out all of the pitching. Let me see what I got to here. So I got to 2% Max Scherzer. That seems like exactly how it's going to shake out if nothing changes today. And then for the Orioles, pretty much the same amount of Woj, 2%. So I don't really know what else to do other than say that I really want to play the Nats bats, and they are the third most owned team I have right now.
Yeah, like Woj has okay strikeout stuff, but the guy gives up a ton of power.
Yeah.
And the Nats don't really strike out, and they do have a lot of power.
Yeah, I'm not going to be upset about how it shook out yesterday. They have a 5.9 run implied total. It'll be either the either the highest outside of Coors or second highest, depending on where the Twins end up. And I just want to go right back to targeting certainly Matt Adams and Juan Soto for the second straight day, but I mean, just the whole lineup in general. Dozier's a little chalky at 20% expected ownership, 3,800, but I mean, the rest of the lineup is not all that owned, around, 9-10%. How do you feel about the Nats just in general? Do you expect them to be one of your more owned teams?
Yeah, and it's something that we've talked about before too. One of my favorite spots to target if I have to guess where home runs are going to come from is when you get power hitters that have low strikeout percentages and they're facing a pitcher that gives up a lot of power and has good strikeout stuff.
Yeah.
Because those guys generally, the quality of batted balls against them is really favorable for hitters. It's just that they rely on, getting swings and misses, but it's really tough for him to get those against the Nats. So I just think it's a great spot for power here.
Yeah. Favorite Nats bats?
Soto, Adams.
Yeah. Can't disagree. Any Orioles bats? They are getting no ownership at all.
No, just a obviously tough spot.
Yeah.
Unless, no, I mean, VR at 4,200 is cheap, but it's not like it's dirt cheap.
Right.
DJ Stewart's okay at 2,800 if you have to go there.
He's the only guy getting ownership, and he's at 3%. So let me make sure that I didn't get stupid amounts of Orioles because there's some sort of weird value. I don't think that I did. I certainly did not. Woj, and then 1 out of 150 of DJ Stewart. So that's easy enough. Blue Jays and Braves. 4.1 run implied total for the Jays, 4.9 for the Braves. That's what I put in. I don't know if that's true. That is the one game that didn't have a line, which, to be honest, surprised me. So the total now is 9.5. I need to give it an extra half. I assume that the Braves are favorites, however. Seems like a safe bet. I pretty much nailed the line, so let me just update that to 9.5, and then we're good. Anyway, I'll throw it to you. Mike Fulton-Nevich, Jacob Wagsback going for the Braves and Blue Jays, respectively. Talk to me about Fulty here. He looks kind of good in the mid-range, but I think there's another arm that is just slightly better.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of good mid-range arms, but Fulty's definitely one of them. I think that from a roster construction standpoint, because obviously I think it's important to talk about a slate in the context of what's available. I think it's going to be a tough slate to go stars and scrubs, if you will, at pitcher, because you're just going to be relying on guys like Urado and Perdomo. So I think I'm more likely to be spending, 14, 15K on pitching in the mid-range. And Fulty's definitely one of those guys. Toronto is a decent offense. Rogers Center has actually been, as of the last time I looked at ESPN, the most favorable home run park in baseball. So it's not like it's an easy spot. It's not a safe spot. There's plenty of power in this lineup, but there's also plenty of strikeouts. And Fulty has been a bit better since coming back from AAA. He's not getting lit up like he was. He's not, been great, but he's been good enough. And this price tag on this slate, I think, makes him a pretty strong mid-range option.
Well, changing that run total from 9 to 9.5 has ground my spreadsheet into a halt. So let me pull up the ownership on the site. Yeah, so Desclafani is at 28 right now. I assume he's the guy that we are going to have our eye on. Fulty coming in at 13. I think that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
I assume I'll have more than that. I might never know.
In the mid-range, I would expect that I have more of Desclafani, Maeda, and Alcantara, and Savali.
Yeah.
But I still expect that Fulty's probably my fifth highest owned pitcher or sixth highest owned pitcher.
Okay, so spreadsheet finally saved itself, so I'm going to literally save it. So just in case I bury this thing again, I can pull it back. Ownership. Fulte is 2% on Yahoo, 4% on FanDuel, and 13 on DraftKings. In my dummy crunch, I got to 25. I'm not mad about that.
Yeah. And actually, I take it back on Alcantara. I thought he was less expensive. So I expect I'll have more Fulte than Alcantara. I'll probably have more Maeda, more Desclafani, and more Savali than Fulte.
Okay. Yeah, Desclafani is the guy that certainly stands out, which we will obviously get to. Any Wags back, 7,200, no ownership.
No, I'm good. I'd rather, if I'm doing that, I'd rather roster Woj.
Really?
Yeah. I just think he has better strikeout stuff than Wags back does.
Sure.
And I think the matchup's not great for either one. Although the Braves lineup is certainly watered down, but they do have Dansby Swanson back, so that's one of their normal hitters.
Yeah.
Still missing Markakis and still missing Inciarte, but they also lose the pitcher here. So you can say what you want about guys like Matt Joyce and Rafael Ortega. They're still better hitters than Fulte.
Yeah, and they do have Cervelli now, which is a win from a hitting perspective for them. Not a massive power guy, but he's a functional bat.
Yeah, and also he's a low K guy, so. Even if you want, he's not a great hitter, but instead of Tyler Flowers striking out 30%, now you have Cervelli at 19 or 20 or whatever.
Exactly. Make sure I get this pitcher ownership table up so I can actually talk about the things that are coming up for me. Perfect. Ooh, yeah, I got a lot of Savali. That'll be fun to talk about. Yeah, him and Desclafani, most owned pitchers. Fun stuff. All right, Braves, little chalky. 4th in ownership on FanDuel, 6th on DraftKings. I have a decent amount. Nothing too crazy, just right around the field. How do you feel about the Braves against Wags back?
Kind of interested, but I would still put them behind several other teams on this slate. I don't think Wags back's any good. And I think that Albies is really affordable, Donaldson's affordable, but and I guess Acuna is discounted from where he normally is. So yeah, I like Atlanta, but I think I would still have them behind Washington and several other teams.
I didn't get to anybody over the field, but I do have enough shares of the Braves that they get worked in, and I think that's kind of where I'm happy to be. I did not get to a single share of Toronto. Kind of scares me a little bit. They're 8th in ownership on DraftKings and 10th on FanDuel. The usual suspects are picking up some ownership, and they're hella cheap. Do you want to get to the Jays against Fulte?
Probably if I get there, it's more as mini stacks or one-offs because they do have a lot of power, and you can obviously get a home run or two out of these guys, but only a 4.4 implied run total, a slate where I don't feel like I'm looking to pay up at pitching all that much. So I don't think I'll get to a lot of full stacks.
Yeah, I would have thought that I got some filler, but I guess not. Flat 0 in 150 lineups. Not a single share across the board. I mean, if Fulte picks up more ownership, I guess that I probably am more likely to get to some Blue Jays. The problem is everything's a damn solo home run for these guys, which is great, but then you need 8 of them.
Right.
I feel like so many times I have the Jays and it's just Biggio solo, Grichuk solo, Teoscar solo, and it's okay, I mean, that's great and all. That's great as one-offs and mini stacks. It's less great as a 5-man. It's not going to be the one that separates. They just they just never have base runners. Favorite bat in the entire game?
It's either, it's one of the top. It's either Acuna, Freeman, or Donaldson.
I think it's interesting that you didn't say Albies at 4,100.
He's just so the thing is, I think that he's discounted. I think that's a really, really good price tag. But I also think that Acuna, Freeman, and Donaldson are underpriced by equal amounts.
That's fair. I thought you were going with just first 4, and then you left that one out, and that was the one that I was looking at the time. Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, it's just that they're all discounted by around 10% of where I think they should be. Yeah. And out of the 4, Albies has upside because he has power and speed, but he's not an above average hitter, whereas the other 3 are all very, very good to great hitters.
Also, Albies better against lefties than righties.
Right.
Not that matters, but I mean, it matters, but not that he's just garbage. All right. Now, time for your boy. Mets and Cubs. 4-run implied total for the Mets, 3-6 for the Cubs, 55% chance to win for the Mets. Noah Syndergaard going for New York. Kyle Hendricks going for the Cubs. Syndergaard 44% owned on Yahoo, where he's just $45. That one makes a ton of sense to me. 21% owned on FanDuel at just $9,500. 24% owned on DraftKings at $10,400. Let's touch on the DraftKings ownership to start. If he's 24% ownership, I have basically no interest. The Yahoo price tag, I think, is hard to ignore, given that Cole is 60 and Scherzer is 63. I think we will both be on the same page of well, it's not a great matchup. Saving $15 on, or saving $18 on Scherzer is kind of a no-brainer. And then on FanDuel, 9,500. Again, you're getting that gigantic step back off of the monster salaries from Cole and Scherzer. So I get why he's getting that ownership. What do you want to do with Syndergaard tonight?
I fell asleep as soon as we started talking about him.
Fair.
Yeah, I mean, I rostered him the other day after saying I came around on him. We did the show, and I said I didn't like him. And then by the time we got around the lock, I was a lot more interested. But I don't think that'll happen today, because while the discount is appealing, like you said, I think it's also appealing going from Syndergaard's 23.5% strikeout percentage, saving $2,500 and getting down to guys like Descafani or Folty or Savali, guys that have comparable strikeout percentages. They're not as good at preventing runs, but or they don't give you as many innings, but I don't really want to pay a premium for that.
Yeah, I got 2% Syndergaard on the first run, and I couldn't be happier about it. It's just not a spot I want to be. It's not like he's playing some garbage team.
Right. He probably has a good start. It's very unlikely that he has a start at his price tag that you have to win a tournament.
If Sonny Gray were pitching for the Mets today, is he over 10K?
Would he be, or should he be?
Well, they're not going to make him 14.5 like you want him to be.
Yeah. I mean, he would probably be like 9,800.
Which would be just perfect.
I'm sure he'll be 10-5 in the first game of the doubleheader his next time out.
Can't wait. Do all day slates count?
Actually, I don't know. We didn't talk about that. It's bullshit.
Right? Should, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like pricing is different for all day in like a negative way. It's
right. Yeah, exactly. So
it's only going to make it more difficult, not less difficult. So
right. Yeah, I thought about that before, but on the slates where he's been above 10K, there hasn't been a big enough all day slate either. Yeah, maybe I can win that way.
Hey, technicalities are technicalities.
And I mean, he can't even argue it. I mean, he knows he lost this bet. It's just a matter of if he actually has to pay or not.
That's a good point. Yeah, I can't get to Syndergaard. And then no real ownership coming in to Kyle Hendricks. I can't imagine you're interested.
No, the Mets don't really strike out a lot. They have some pretty good hitters in their lineup, and then the strikeout percentage gets even lower if Joe Panic's in there, which he may or may not be. But yeah, not a great strikeout pitcher. Good real life pitcher, obviously, but I don't feel the need to pay for him.
No ownership coming into the Mets. No ownership coming into the Cubs. I didn't get either team. Is this just mostly a non-existent game?
Yep. I feel the same way about this game tonight as I did last night, and that was that if it had disappeared from the slate, I would not have noticed.
I don't even know what happened last night.
Baez had a big game. So on the pricing on DraftKings is kind of appealing, assuming that the Cubs are going to get no ownership.
Yeah, they are free.
Right. They're free, and they're priced down for Syndergaard, which is fair. I mean, the guy doesn't give up any power. He is a good pitcher, but the Cubs still have a lot of power with guys like Castellanos, Bryant, Baez, Schwarber in the middle of that lineup. The problem is, unless you can get the Cubs with like Cole plus Desclafani or something, and then I don't really know how that roster construction goes.
See what I got. I assume I don't have much, if anything. So I crunched 800 lineups. I crunched 550 that have a 5-man stack. One of those 550 are the Cubs. That's with 150% randomness.
Right. So, I mean, like from an upside perspective, it's
Ooh, that's a great lineup.
Right. On DraftKings, if you start with Gerrit Cole and Desclafani, you get $3,750 per lineup. If you make Desclafani be Aaron Savali at 7K, you get $3,850.
Yeah.
So basically, you can stack Castellanos, Bryant, Baez, Schwarber, and then Happ or Hayward or Caratini or whatever, and you're still going to have around 3,800 per position. So you can get a really high upside lineup just in terms of talent.
Yeah. So the 1-5-man that I got was Maeda, Desclafani, Russell, Baez, Bryant, Schwarber, Hayward with Devers, Moreland, Vasquez.
Yeah, the problem still, so with what I just said, you're getting a ton of upside, but the question is still, while there's a lot of upside in that lineup, do you actually have more upside than if you have like Savali, Desclafani, and then a Red Sox plus good team number 2 stack?
Oh, it's a very low likelihood win.
Right.
I also got them in 1-4-man. That's how little the Cubs are showing up. That's a Cole Maeda 4-man. Russell, Castellanos, Hayward, Happ with Lindor, Yu Chang, Santana, and Plawecki. So you can do it, but I think that's the perfect example of why I can't even get it to come up while just saying randomize everything, and they still don't come up. No offense here for me. I can't imagine that would change unless a pitcher gets scratched.
Yeah, I agree.
Here we go. Game of the day, Marlins and Reds. 3.8 run implied total for the Marlins, 4.6 for the Reds. 58% chance to win for Cincinnati. I'm getting ahead of myself. Sandy Alcantara, going for the Marlins. Anthony Desclafani going for the Reds. We got to start with Desclafani. 16% ownership on Yahoo, 12 on FanDuel, 28 on DraftKings. This is, without question, the dream matchup for Desclafani. The Marlins generally are going to be running out 7 righties. That's probably the expectation. Desclafani is death to righties, and he's pitching in a park that is just slightly better than pitching in Cincinnati.
Just a little bit.
He's the best pitcher on the slate relative to his salary today, correct?
I think so, yeah.
I got 47% on my first crunch, and if he's at 28, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, everything looks really, really good for him. The park's great. Miami can't hit. They're missing one of their only above average major league hitters with Brian Anderson on the injured list. They have 7 righties, including the pitcher, in their projected lineup. You might get Brian Holiday over Jorge Alfaro, which would be a huge downgrade in strikeout percentage, but that's still not like it's a good hitter getting into the lineup. Right. But Desclafani has always been much, much better against righties, and that's something that makes sense because he got a really good slider that he throws about a third of the time to right-handed hitters, has close to a 20% swinging strike percentage on it this year. So far this season, he's thrown 1,001 pitches to right-handed hitters. He's allowed a 279 expected WOBA, 132 expected ISO, 26.4% strikeout percentage. There are like 3 pitchers on this entire slate that have a strikeout percentage higher than 26.4%. I think Desclafani's easily my number 1 pitcher.
Yeah, to me, it's a no-brainer. I assume that 28% number comes up once Scherzer's number comes down. But I just want to have him. What's really crazy is that I think he's a good value, but he's still not even remotely close to the value that Nelson was yesterday for me. Not Nelson. Damn it. Why do I keep doing that?
Hauser?
Yes. Why do I keep doing this? Stupid Brewers pitchers, man.
So
Adrian Hauser is for real going to be Jimmy Nelson in my head for 5 years.
That's a weird comp too. I guess.
It's the names. They're like Nelson and Hauser, the length of their last name and the team is just burned in my brain wrong. And I can't rewire it. This is the 3rd time I've done this since Hauser's been back. I don't know. I'm a moron. Go ahead.
The only thing about Desclafani that becomes interesting, obviously don't mean that in terms of me being interested in him. The decision becomes interesting if, let's say, like you said, when Scherzer's projected ownership drops, let's say Desclafani gets up to 40-45% on DraftKings, and you're still getting Savali around 15%, Folty around 15%, Maeda, stays around 20%. Then it starts to get interesting because it's still Anthony Desclafani. It's a really, really, really good spot, but it's still average to slightly above average pitcher.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be trying to get north of the field any longer. But I would have a hard time getting away from him just because of the Marlins. So your boy Sandy, 3%, 3%, 5% across the 3 sites. I got to 22. And I'm not exactly bummed about it, even though he's not really any great shakes. Is Votto back? Apparently Votto's back.
Yep. Yeah, so that's a downgrade for the lineup. Dietrich's back. Dietrich is back as well. Downgrade for Alcantara, I mean. I think that if you were like 6K or 6,300, I think I get a lot. At 6,800, the problem I'm going to have is that he's only $200 less expensive than Aaron Savali is.
I also got a ton of Savali, so I'm basically just loading up on this section.
Right. I expect that I'll get, like you said, you had what, 22 or 23 on Alcantara?
23, yeah.
Yeah, I could see getting into that range. I would guess that he's like my 5th or 6th highest owned pitcher.
I actually have 0 Gerrit Cole right now, so
that's what I'm interested. I don't know if I'll get. I assume I'll get some Cole, but probably not tons.
I have nothing at the top, and that is basically just giving me all of Maeda, Desclafani, Folty, Savali, Sandy. I didn't look at Ariel Jurado yet, but I'm terrified to see it. Yeah, 16% to him. Hey, if they're going to let him go 9 innings again, I'll take it. I don't know what to project for him anymore. Now he's like the long guy today, so I got nothing. Look, I'm going to have more than 5% Sandy. That much I know is for sure right now. I guess I'm okay. I mean, a 4.6 implied total for the Reds in Miami is like not anything to be super worried about. The shot is there. At least it's in Miami. If it were in Cincinnati, I wouldn't want this at all.
If it were in Cincinnati, I would have a lot of Cincy.
Yeah, true. Speaking of Cincy, 7th in ownership on DraftKings, 9th on FanDuel. They're not really getting owned as a stack. Miami not really getting owned at all. Are you trying to get Cincy here?
I think Cincy's kind of interesting because Alcantara isn't really good. He might be at some point, but so far this year he's got a 5.8% K minus BB percentage. He has a 5.59 xFIP, which is, I believe, worst among qualified starters. And Miami's bullpen behind him is garbage. So I do think there's a lot of upside. And you do have Votto and Dietrich back. Aquino obviously has tons of power. Suarez is underpriced with a ton of power. Van Meter's not bad. Barnhart's a cheap catcher. I think it's kind of an appealing stack. The issue that I'm going to run into is that they're not the Nationals, they're not the Indians, they're not the Twins, they're not the Rockies, they're not the Astros, they're not the Red Sox, they're not the Dodgers. Like I'm running out of places to have exposure.
Yeah, I didn't really get to these guys. I wouldn't mind getting to a little bit more Cincinnati, but I think there are just so many better spots on the slate today. And this is just one devoid of like legitimate offense. Van Meter for 12 on Yahoo looks good. Votto for 3,700 on DraftKings. Reasonable, but he's already getting ownership, so I'll pass. I don't know. It's just not that fun. Garrett Cooper for $7 on Yahoo is kind of intriguing. I mean, he's going to get eaten alive by Desclafani, but for $7, I'm intrigued.
I got distracted because an ESPN writer wrote to expect Melvin Gordon to end his holdout in time for week 1, but he didn't give any reasoning. So I don't know. But I assume that Melvin Gordon going in the middle of the 4th round is now over.
You would think. Tigers and Indians. Final 7 o'clock game. 4.1 run implied total for the Tigers. 5-4 for the Indians. Jordan Zimmerman going for Detroit. Aaron Savali going for Cleveland. No ownership going to Zimmerman. No ownership going to Savali anywhere but DraftKings, where he is 7K and at 13%. As of right now on the Dummy Crunch, I got to 33. Talk to me about Savali.
Yeah, give me a lot of Savali here. He's not bad, and the Tigers are. The Tigers have no above average hitters in their entire lineup now that Nico Goodrum's on the injured list. Aaron Savali at AAA this season made 8 starts through 42 and a third innings, struck out 26.1% of hitters, 5.1% walk percentage. In 5 starts at AA, he was at 19.8% strikeout percentage. So far in his 5 major league starts, he's at a 21.7% strikeout percentage. He projects to be, pretty decent, and he's facing the Tigers. So I'll take a lot of Aaron Savali.
Yeah. So will I. I hope that holds. I don't get the sense that his ownership will climb too much. He's not that kind of guy. Not on this slate. I mean, he might get to like 15, 18, max at 20, but I anticipate being well north of the field on Savali pretty much no matter what happens. That's what happens when you face the Tigers. And I'm confident that we have no interest in Jordan Zimmerman.
Correct.
Fantastic. 6th in ownership on FanDuel, 4th on DraftKings. Indians getting a little bit of love. I don't think that's shocking. They are my second most owned team, and I hope that holds. I mean, Carlos Santana at 4% right now. I got to 15. I've got Kipnis at 20, Lindor at 20. I just want to target against Jordan Zimmerman.
As do I. Pretty appealing price tags on the Indians. Jason Kipnis comes in at 3,700 on DraftKings.
Puig and not that owned either. 10%.
Yeah, that's pretty low. Puig $15 on Yahoo, Mercado $13. Both are really appealing. Reyes is affordable. I think it's a really nice combination of value and upside for Cleveland.
I completely agree. I want to be here, and they will be one of my top owned stacks, and I will almost definitely be over the field. Right now, I'm double the field, and that feels perfect. 25-man stacks, 16 4-mans. Give me those Indians. Favorite Indians bat?
Lindor.
Yeah, me too. I would love to say Puig or Reyes, but outfielders are a dime a dozen.
And I mean, I really like them, but Lindor is just like, if you want to split hairs on Jordan Zimmerman, he's held righties this year to a 312 expected WOBA, 158 expected ISO. I don't, that's not going to deter me from rostering these right-handed hitters. Sure. But against lefties, he's allowed a 411 expected WOBA and a 253 expected ISO.
Tyler Naquin, come on down.
Yeah. Since last season, 317 expected WOBA, 195 expected ISO to righties, 365, 221 to lefties. He's not good against anyone, but he's, as you would expect, much worse against lefties.
Tigers bats? Anything outside of, I don't know, Brandon Dixon for $7 on Yahoo? Man, it's like a cavalcade of $7 first baseman today.
Right. If Willie Castro is hitting second, he's 2,400 on FanDuel, which I guess is okay. I just don't.
What a ringing endorsement.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think in the context of the slate that, for one, I need to find a bunch of cheap stacks, and for two, I think that there's cheap stacks I can find that are more appealing than the Tigers. Like if you look at the Tigers pricing on DraftKings and you look at the Cubs pricing, not that I'm super interested in the Cubs either, but functionally in terms of what your lineup's going to look like, they're about the same. Like the Tigers are a little bit cheaper, but it's about the same. Yeah. And one of them is the Cubs and one of them is the Tigers. So it's really tough to get there.
For example, weighting everybody by expected plate appearances, the Tigers come out with an 84 weighted runs created plus out of Steamer. The Cubs, on the other hand, 106.
Yeah.
So you're just getting better raw talent for the same price.
Yeah. In general, if you can pay the same price for Chris Bryant as you would pay for Ronnie Rodriguez, you should choose Chris Bryant.
Well, if they're the same, is Ronnie Rodriguez one of the top 25 hitters in baseball? They're the same price.
That'll never get old.
It seriously won't. Just to show that it's not as if like the Tigers are popping up either. I got 2 out of 550 5-man stacks for Detroit and 2 4-man stacks out of, I don't know, hundreds.
Yeah. And actually, my example would have been better if I'd used Javi Baez because he actually is the same price and he's the same position as Ronnie Rodriguez.
Yeah. Ronnie Rodriguez, unowned. Surprise, surprise. Unless it's Jake's lineups on FanDuel, at which point he'll have 25% and the guy will dong. That's it for 7 o'clock games.
He has hit some of the most annoying home runs from my perspective this year. Like, he's just one of those guys where it seems like whenever I have a sweat and there's some random ass team ahead of me, it's like Ronnie Rodriguez has a home run.
Remind me to send you a Ronnie Rodriguez jersey.
Yeah.
Or I'll get one for Alex to wear during the deeper dive. 7 o'clock games are over. So hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. It's a relatively pedestrian Wednesday at awesemo.com. Next show will be the deeper dive, 5 o'clock. Adam, Laffy, and the boss man, Alex Baker. And then live before lock, stop me if you've heard this one this week, myself and Jake. We are running it back for the second straight day, and you get us tomorrow and Friday. So I hope you like the pairing of Jake and I. Otherwise, you're going to have a real bummer week.
I doubt they like the pairing. They probably like Jake.
That's true. That's a good point. Man, it's those statements that are rooted in truth that sting the most. Astros and Rays, 4.7 run implied total for the Stros, 3.3 for the Rays, 64% chance to win for Houston. Gerrit Cole going for the Astros, Ryan Yarbrough going for the Rays. No ownership going to Yarbrough because he has to face the Astros. Cole, 16 on Yahoo, 6 on FanDuel, 15 on DK. All three of those numbers are going to climb slightly once we stabilize Scherzer. I mean, if we're lucky, Scherzer doesn't move at all, and that actually holds. But I don't expect that to happen, and I expect Gerrit Cole's ownership to rise. And I didn't get him. Like, not even just I'm a little light on Gerrit Cole. I literally got 0 in the 150 lineups that I would, if I had to enter them in the next minute, that's where I would be.
That would scare the hell out of me, but I also don't think it's bad. It's obviously risky, but as we said, there's several mid-range options that are in good matchups and are good enough to take advantage. There's a lot of bats to pay for. And the real problem for me, and the reason that I think that I'm not going to get a lot of Cole, even though I absolutely love Gerrit Cole always and roster him as much as I possibly can, is that unless you're playing like a 4K Urado against the Angels or Perdomo against the Dodgers, to get to Cole, you're completely changing your roster construction because he's 11 or 12-2 on DraftKings.
Yeah.
So when you think about how much money you're spending at pitcher, let's say that you're the cheapest pitcher that you really feel any sort of comfort level with is Sandy Alcantara at 6,800. Now you're paying $19,000 at pitcher compared to if you roster Savali plus Desclafani, you're paying 14,800. So you're really limiting what you can do with the bats compared to if you take two mid-range pitchers. So I think that's why I wouldn't be surprised if I end up low on Cole. If I end up high on Cole, the issue is going to be that it means I'm high on like Urado or something.
Right. So I have all my crunches here. Again, 800 lineups. If I just sort by overall projection, the top 6 lineups that are on my screen are basically like 123, 124 fantasy points. If I sort to just Cole, those same top 6 lineups are in like the 113 to 114 range. You get 1 to 119. But what it's basically saying is that you're taking a haircut on your overall ceiling with getting to Cole because there's that little to pair him with from another pitcher, which is what you're saying. This is just like a graphical interpretation of that. And that's why Gerrit Cole can be the clear best pitcher on the slate. If Scherzer is dinged up, and even then, up for debate. But he showed up in 68 of 800 lineups. It's a really difficult construction.
I think so. I was watching Manny's football stream yesterday, and one of his examples was like, pairing Julio Jones with like a wide receiver that has a floor of 0 or taking like 2 mid-range wide receivers. And I think you can actually kind of apply that to this situation with the pitching today because like, can Gerrit Cole go get you 35 or 40? Like, yeah, but the SP2 you pair him with has a really good chance of getting you like 5 if you're staying in that 16K price range. Whereas if you're going like Desclafani, Savali, those guys can pretty easily get you 20 to 25 apiece.
Man, I wouldn't have expected to get so little Cole, and by so little I mean 0. But
yeah,
I'm not upset.
I think he's the best DFS starting pitcher in baseball. Mm-hmm. So I would like to get him. I just don't think that I want the implication of it also meaning I'm getting like Ariel Urado,
which I also already have. So that'll be fun. No Yarbrough, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we've got the Astros essentially unowned on DK outside of Abraham Toro, which he's still the flat minimum on DK. Whatever. Just, stop making him $2,000. No ownership at all going to the Rays. I can't imagine you or anyone is going to have any interest in the Rays other than trying to be different, which I'll find better spots to do that. What do you want to do with the Astros against Yarborough? Because I didn't get to much of those guys either.
I would have really liked to get to them. Their pricing on DraftKings is some of the cheapest we've seen this year, I think. The only hitter in the lineup that is 5K is Alvarez, and he's exactly 5K.
Yeah.
I think that there's really good values here, and obviously the talent is great.
Anxious to see their top stack percentage when that comes out. I'll tell a big story for me. I have them overall as my 11th ranked stack.
I was just looking at the Coors game to see how their prices related to the Rockies and the Red Sox, and I did not realize that the Rockies are all priced like they're hitting in Miami.
Makes it tricky.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's like Yarborough's decent. Yeah. He's not a bad pitcher, and there's a lot of spots to get to on this slate, but I just think that the Astros are so talented, and you're getting pretty sizable discounts on most guys that they're really interesting if they're not going to be popular.
Yeah, they're a team that I don't mind getting to. So here's a question for you. Would you rather have the Astros or the Cubs?
Astros.
Okay. I not that I disagree. The run total is a full run ahead, and clearly Syndergaard is a better pitcher than Ryan Yarborough. I don't know if the price would make up the distance.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so.
I mean, ultimately, I'm not going to have either of these teams, so I guess the point is relatively unimportant. But I think I would be more likely to want to get to the Astros.
Yeah, I just the Cubs. It was more of a wow, you can actually get this good team with Gerrit Cole if you want to, and that's why I had interest. Yeah. Here, they're facing a lefty that is decent but not great, and they're really good. And oh, by the way, they're also really, really cheap.
Yeah. Favorite bat in the game?
Springer or Bregman?
I was gonna go Bregman.
Yeah, I would say the positional eligibility does it for me, but he plays the same positions as Arenado, Story, Devers, and Bogarts. So,
God, shortstop's loaded.
Mm-hmm.
4.5 run implied total for the White Sox, 6 for the Twins, 64% chance to win for Minnesota. Ross Detweiler going for the White Sox. I'm sure he'll just spin a gem again. Jake Odorizzi going for the Twins. No ownership going to Detweiler. Odorizzi 41% on Yahoo, 15 on FanDuel, 18 on DraftKings. I got to 5 of Odorizzi. Kind of want to get more just because the White Sox are the White Sox. What do you think you're going to do with Odorizzi?
I think that if he's actually 18 to 20% owned, I probably am underweight. I just don't think I'm going to want to get to that price range. I think I would just rather have more ownership going to Maeda, Desclafani, Savali, some going to Patrick Sandoval, just more Tanner Roark, like just guys that are a little bit cheaper that I think give you a very comparable ceiling and are in good matchups. It's a good spot for Odorizzi, but he's priced for it, whereas these other guys kind of aren't.
Yeah, much like I mentioned, I don't expect to get there. It's not, that upper range is really difficult to grab. And also, you're paying the full freight for Odorizzi here. It's not like he's cheap.
Yeah, exactly. And also, if you go back and look, we can see from the last time he faced the White Sox that the White Sox are incredibly good at knowing where the Twins defenders are and hitting the ball somewhere else. So that makes it tough.
Yeah, I do like the $42 price tag on Yahoo. When essentially it's Cole at 60 and then everybody is 45 or below, he's in play then as a SP1 in my opinion.
Yeah, he's. How much did you say it was?
He's 42.
Yeah, that's pretty appealing.
Yarborough is 43, Syndergaard 45, and then it's Cole and Scherzer at 60 or 63. So that makes more sense to me. But
yeah, Maeda's 39, so it's a pretty comparable price.
Yeah. No Detweiler, right?
No. Not Twins don't strike out. Twins have tons of power. Twins aren't the Rangers.
Exactly. Speaking of the Twins, they are third in ownership on FanDuel. Garver, Cruz, and Sano all 16% or higher. They are 12th on DraftKings. I got the Twins as my fifth most owned stack. I'm up like 80% total. If we're looking at just in the aggregate ownership for the Twins, 3.5%. I got to 10. That feels really awesome. Am I missing something, or should the Twins be more owned? Is this just a price thing?
It's probably just a price thing, but they should be more owned. I think it makes them a really good tournament stack if that's going to be the case, because it's obviously a good spot for them. They obviously have a lot of really good hitters. But I think it makes sense that they are low owned because they're more expensive than the Rockies are. They're similarly priced to a lot of the Red Sox bats. So I think that it makes sense for them to be low owned.
They rank as my number 2 stack. Would you rather have the Twins or the Nats?
I think it would depend on ownership.
The Twins are a third of it.
Yeah, so I like the Twins spot more.
So then it's definitely the Twins.
Yeah. the
You're getting the team that you like at lower ownership. This one's a no-brainer.
Well, when it comes, the salaries on the Nats are more appealing,
right?
Because you can mix in Adams, Suzuki, Dozier to kind of offset those expensive guys. Whereas with the Twins, it's not as easy.
Yeah, Sano at 5,500 is scary. Clearly, you don't care at all what Nelson Cruz's price is against Ross Detweiler. It could be 7K, and I'd be like, you know what? I'd probably get a bunch of Nelson Cruz here.
Home runs is good value at 7K.
Like, see if there's a home run prop up on Cruz. I want to see if it's below plus 200. That seems like plus 220 seemed to be like the threshold that I've seen so far. But yeah, plus 195. Damn. I love the Twins here. I pray that this ownership stays low. This is the team. I would guess they end up being the team with the biggest gap between their top stack percentage and their ownership just because of their prices and the Coors game.
Yeah. Sorry, there's like a conversation in Slack that I think is interesting.
Our Slack?
Yeah. Just about stacking strategies, and I was trying to get caught up on it.
Oh. Huh. Who knew? And it's 10:34 a.m. And we're on the show. So we didn't drive this one. Kudos, Slack. Much obliged. Any White Sox bats against Odorizzi?
Probably not. Like Abreu would be my favorite, but I don't think that you need to.
Yeah, Abreu, and that's it. Surprise, surprise, another relatively cheap first base option. They're everywhere. Royals and A's, 4-run implied total for the Royals, 5 for the A's, 60% chance to win for Oakland. Jacob Junis, Tanner Roark. These guys are getting no ownership on any of the sites. I pray to God these things say 0. All right, Junis at 10. Fine. Roark at 0. Okay. You want either Roark or Junis?
I think Roark's interesting. Junis, I like the price point just because I'm all for just rotating through that price range today. But the matchup's pretty brutal. He gives up home runs. You're facing an Oakland team that has a lot of power and doesn't strike out a lot. For Roark, though, it's kind of interesting. Like I don't love him, and he's kind of the top. He might be like the most expensive pitcher I want to get to at 8,400, but it is a pretty decent matchup against Kansas City. Once you get out of those top 4 hitters, they're really bad. And 3 of those top 4 hitters are right-handed, which is favorable for Roark. He's been really, really good this year at getting righties out. He's allowed a 295 expected WOBA, 25.5% strikeout percentage. He's been trash against lefties, but Alex Gordon, and then a huge drop off to guys like O'Hearn, Villoria, Phillips, Lopez isn't the scariest. So mild interest in Roark.
Yeah, but 8,400, man. Whew.
Yeah, it's like I don't think I'll get a lot, but
sure.
Getting no ownership on Roark, he's at 3%. Is it? I don't think it's crazy to think that Roark is the highest scorer out of Roark, Desclafani, Savali, Sandoval, Alcantara. Fultonevich more than his ownership suggests he should be.
I agree. It's unappealing when you look at it, like without digging into it.
He's like the kind of guy. He's the guy where he ends up in lineups for me where I just have money left over, and it's like, oh, you can be contrarian by making Desclafani be Roark.
Yeah, that goes well with a Red Sox stack that doesn't have Desclafani.
Exactly.
Royals bats essentially unowned, a little bit to O'Hearn and Valoria. A's bats 5th in total ownership, but 34% of that is going to 2K Seth Brown. Is this like, do we just have like a never-ending supply of 2K outfielders that suck?
It's pretty weird. I really hope that they get this figured out before all of the call-ups in a week.
It's like we're just playing like revolving door of 2K shit.
Yeah.
Every day it's somebody. And today is Seth Brown, evidently. Who knows if that Rockies boner is up again in the lineup today at minimum salary. What do you want to do with Oakland? They are not a chalky stack.
I think I'm most interested in one-offs there. I think that a full stack is fine, but it's just, again, when it comes to prioritizing, it's going to be really tough to get them ahead of a lot of other teams. But Junis gives up a lot of power. He's allowed 1.5 home runs per 9 this year with only a 21.5% strikeout percentage. Looking at guys like Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, Chris Davis, obviously a nice value. Seth Brown, of course, at 2K. Yeah. Just using those guys to give you one-offs or mini stacks, I think is a pretty good way to go.
Yeah, I didn't get to anything really here, and I'm not mad about it. I do like parts of Oakland. I wouldn't mind getting some of these guys in smaller pieces, but they're probably the team that I need to dig into most, since they do have a 5-run implied total, and they're not even in sniffing distance of my lineup, so it is something I want to check out. I like Soler for 4,100 today.
I like Gordon at 36, and I like O'Hearn at 28.
Same.
And by I mean I think that they're good values, and I won't like delete my lineup if they're in it.
Favorite bat in the entire game?
Matt Brown Davis. Olson for a home run, Davis for value, I guess. But like Brown's the best value play. I don't know. It's hard to answer.
Okay.
Like, you know what I'm getting at though? Like,
yeah.
Chris Davis is my favorite real hitter that is a value as a value. But then you have this 2K guy.
Yeah. Yeah, Seth Brown's kind of breaking it.
Chris Davis, okay, how about this? Matt Olson's my favorite home run play.
Sure.
Chris Davis is my favorite tournament value. Seth Brown would be the first guy from this team I have in cash games.
Bingo. Nailed it. Head to Coors. Rockies and Red Sox, 6.2 implied total for the Rocks. I've got 7.8 for the Red Sox, so that's going to be north of 8 for Alex. Peter Lambert for the Rockies. Eduardo Rodriguez for the Red Sox. No ownership going to either pitcher, although... Nope, I still don't have Erod. That's fine. I don't have them either. Any pitching?
No, if I went... Yeah, no.
Okay.
It wouldn't be shocking if I got some small amount of $4,200 Lambert or something in some weird lineup, but no.
Rockies getting a decent amount of ownership. 5th on FanDuel, which is actually lower than I would have expected. 2nd on DK. If you're surprised by the fact that the Red Sox project to be the chalk stack on FanDuel and DraftKings, I don't know what to tell you at this point. Anything different today compared to yesterday? Is there any limit to the amount of Red Sox you want?
No, I love the Red Sox here. And I think that I don't even remember if we were live or not, but we talked about the Red Sox earlier and their ownership on yesterday's slate. I expect it to be the same today, where, Martinez and Betts are really popular. Devers probably won't, or Devers will probably still be popular, but he's actually the most expensive on the team. But then you'll see a drop off to Bogarts because of his position. And then you'll see a drop off to Vasquez and Moreland because they're expensive and at the bottom of the order. So 5-man Boston stacks will still be pretty easy to be contrarian.
Yeah, this is basically just what you and I were talking about before. Betts, Devers, Bogarts, JD. anywhere between 16 and 21% owned. I've got like 22, 23 of all four of them. Then you get 7, 6, 5, 6 on Benintendi, Vasquez, Moreland, and Holt, where I still have 10 plus of all of those guys. That's where we want to be.
Right.
They'll be my most owned stack. I'm happy to have them. I don't care if they're chalky. It doesn't matter. This game is in Colorado. The runs, it's a massive, massive spot. And they are on a completely different level than any other offense on the slate. But what about the Rockies, who are just literally not expensive at all?
Yeah. I think that the Rockies are clear cash game plays.
Yeah.
I think that if they get the ownership that I expect that they will based on their salaries, I think that they probably end up being a team that I'm underweight on in tournaments because I expect they'll just get a lot of ownership. They have a 5.9 implied run total, which obviously is high, but it's, same ballpark as the Twins, same ballpark as the Nats. Indians aren't that much lower. They're comparable to a lot of teams. Rodriguez isn't bad. Story and Arenado are good. Story, Arenado, Blackman, Murphy, I think are all really good plays, but then it kind of falls off of a cliff. So if they are getting a lot of ownership, I expect they'll be underweight. If somehow they're not, then by all means, give me the team in Coors.
Sorry, I'm responding to you. Only guy that I didn't really get at all was Daza, and that's the exact guy I don't want to get. So that's perfect. I'm basically neutral with the Rockies outside of just avoiding the Daza chalk. And that's cool with me. I want to have a lot of this game. It's an incredible offensive environment. As of right now, in the dummy crunch, I have 29% of 100, 29% of all of my hitting exposure is going to this game, and that works for me.
Yep, me too.
It's just that easy. Favorite bat in the whole game?
Flip a coin 4 times between the top 4 guys on the Red Sox.
Yeah. I mean,
it might be the cheapest price point we've gotten on Story or Arenado against the lefty in Coors this year, though.
That's what I was just gonna say. Are Arenado and Story worse than Devers and Bogarts? I'd probably rather have the Rockies duo.
In cash games, I would definitely rather. I would go Story and I would go Arenado, but that makes me really excited for the Red Sox in tournaments because that those two are going to pull ownership down from Devers and Bogarts.
Yeah. Ultimately, the first 3 bats on the Rockies and the first 4 on the Red Sox are elite options.
Correct. And they all play the same positions, so it's really interesting in tournaments.
Grab bag type stuff.
Yep.
Alrighty, 2 more to go. Padres and Dodgers. 3.9 run implied total for the Pods, 4.9 for the Dodgers, 61% chance to win for LA. Jacob Nix for the Padres, Kenta Maeda for the Dodgers. Maeda 9% owned on Yahoo, 3 on FanDuel, and 20 on DraftKings, where he is just 8K. Jacob Nix unowned. I got to 26% Maeda, but I like Maeda in this spot. I think that he's a really nice value at 8K. If this lineup really is 4 out of the first 5 spots being lefties, it's not as appealing as it should be, but I think that Kenta Maeda is kind of difficult to avoid today.
Yeah, I really like this. I like Maeda. We talked about it yesterday that the Padres' actual lineup isn't as good for strikeouts as their active roster suggests that it would be, but it's still not a really good lineup since you don't have Tatis anymore. You don't have Reyes anymore. The lefties is a bit of an issue for Maeda, especially if you're getting 4 of them in the top 5. But ultimately, it just comes down to being a pretty affordable price tag. I don't have him ahead of Desclafani, but I still think that it's a good spot for Maeda. So is it Nix or Perdomo?
I have Nix.
DraftKings has Perdomo.
Betting sites have Wingenter. Yeah. Whatever the fuck that means.
DraftKings has him opening and Perdomo coming in.
Perdomo is now on Fangraphs as well. So they had Nix. Do you care?
No,
okay.
I just I don't think it matters.
Okay. Well, skip Jacob Nix, slot in Luis Perdomo, and change no part of this conversation.
Correct.
Unless Perdomo's 4K or something.
I mean, Perdomo is 4K.
Oh, okay.
So like he might end up in some lineups because he's 4K, but it's certainly not a spot that I like against all these good lefties.
Yeah, no, that's a little scary.
I'm looking now. I don't even know how stretched out he is. I assume he's been starting at AAA. There are now 3 Luis Perdomos in professional baseball.
Really?
Yeah.
That's tricky.
He threw. Wow. Where was he just on the injured list? Like he hasn't pitched in the minor league since May 22nd.
No idea, man. I don't know dick about Luis Perdomo.
I totally had forgotten about him until now.
I know a lot about the other two.
Yeah. Oh, I guess maybe there's 2 in pro baseball now. It looks like the other one was from 2009 to 2012.
Was there one in the Yankees, or is that the one we're talking about too?
I don't remember.
Okay.
The one we're talking about went from the Cardinals to the Padres. Also, the one that we're talking about has made 36 appearances for the Padres this year, and he's made 1 start. Oh, okay, yeah. So he's been in the majors. He just hasn't been. He's been out of the bullpen. On August 25th, he threw 12 pitches. On August 21st, he threw 37. So yeah, never mind. Perdomo's not getting in any lineups. It's basically a bullpen game.
Okay.
Like an actual bullpen game.
Yeah, literally.
Which takes away one of those terrible 4K options to pair with Gerrit Cole also. You're now down to Ariel Jurado and Peter Lambert.
And that's pretty much just Jurado.
Yeah.
You got a special set of balls, or you made a mistake taking Lambert against the Red Sox in Coors.
Yep.
Dodgers bats, 11th in ownership, not getting any love whatsoever. I got to double the field. They are my number 7 stack. I got to like 6.5% of these boners. Lots of jock at 2% ownership. That's a spot I want to be. What do you want to do with the Dodgers? Jock is 4,100 on DK. Whew.
Yeah, I really like the jock price tag. I really like the salaries on the Dodgers overall, but it just seems like there's a lot of teams that are underpriced today. So I like them. It's just hard for me to get them ahead of a lot of teams. I don't really like taking guys in bullpen games. I know that a lot of times people look and just go like, oh my God, these pitchers are so bad. But if they're all pitching 2 or 3 innings, maxing out, and then your next at bat's against a different pitcher, it's not a good thing. So I don't know, like the Dodgers are good enough hitters. I'm happy with whatever I get, but I would put them behind, Coors. I'd put them behind the Angels. I'd put them behind the Astros. I'd put them behind the Twins, the Indians, the Nats. It's going to be tough.
The Dodgers projected lineup has 4 guys with dual eligibility with first base.
That's how you know a team has a lot of power.
Yeah. First base outfield, first base second, first base outfield, first base outfield. Chris Taylor is outfield shortstop. Dodgers just play everybody everywhere. Positions are meaningless. They're like the NBA of baseball teams.
That's what I was going to say.
Justin Turner, Corey Seager over here, like, man, I can't get dual eligibility anywhere.
Turner might not be in the lineup.
Yeah. Well, I don't know I don't know why he didn't play yesterday.
He was like appealing his suspension, but also didn't play. I don't know why he didn't just serve the suspension.
Right. Unless he thinks that it's going to go away, which, I mean, what's the point?
But like he sat out the game as he appealed. Why
he gets his game check.
Oh, right. Yeah. Good point.
So, you don't want to forfeit,
I
don't know, 50 grand or whatever the hell he makes in a given day until you know you have to.
Right. Yeah, I hadn't thought about
that. I'm happy to get to some Dodgers. If they remained, 2% owned as a team, 3% owned as a team, then I'm cool to have like slightly more than that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just don't think that they're going to be like a high priority for me.
Alrighty. Final game, Angels and Rangers. 5.6 run implied total for the Angels, 4.3 for the Rangers. The 62% chance to win for LA. Patrick Sandoval for the Angels, Ariel Jurado for the Rangers. Neither guy really getting any sort of ownership. What do you want to do with both guys? Agreed, man. Agreed.
I think Jurado is the best of the 4K options because he can throw 100 pitches and he's not pitching in Coors Field. That said, I really don't think I get to a whole lot. I just prefer taking 2 mid-range pitchers. Really tough matchup, not a good strikeout pitcher, all that. On the other side, I think Sandoval, I'll get some in tournaments just because I'm rotating through these mid-range guys. The Rangers are a pretty good matchup. This lineup's really bad. And Sandoval does have decent strikeout stuff, high walk percentage, but struck out 22% at AAA. He's at 22.5% in the majors. Just nothing great, but certainly can get some outs against Texas.
Let's see if I got to any Sandoval. I assume that I didn't. 1% Sandoval, 15% Ariel Jurado.
Whew.
I mean, like, that's kind of how I feel.
I mean, I don't even think that that's bad in terms of like a ceiling argument. It's just not great.
No, not at all. Not at all. The problem is, we know that I don't have any Gerrit Cole, so these are Ariel Jurado, like,
that's
Kenta Maeda lineups.
Yeah, that's what I was going to look at. I was like, so if I go DeSclafani plus Jurado, I get 4,800 per position. But if I go DeSclafani plus Savali, I get 4,400 per position. I think that I think it's worth $400 per player to get Savali over Jurado, especially with how many underpriced players there are on this slate.
Yeah, you would think. Let's see what sort of slop I am getting here with Jurado. So, should be able to filter this pretty quickly. All right. Bingo. Jurado has to be in the SP2 spot. Nobody's going to be ahead of him. DeSclafani, Folty, Junis, Maeda. Cycle those guys a couple times. One Sandy, one Sandoval, one Gerrit Cole, but that one's outside of my top 150. Yeah, it's a pretty healthy pay down. Yikes. And yet I don't get the sense that it's going to change. Do you think they're going to let him go out there and just take an absolute beating for 120 pitches again?
I hope not, for his sake.
No real ownership coming in on the Angels. They're 8th on FanDuel, 13 on DK. Rangers are 14th on both sites. Let's see. Did I get to Angels or Rangers on that first crunch? Do you have any interest in the Angels or the Rangers?
I have interest in the Angels because they're not really expensive. They have a near 6 implied run total in Anaheim, which is saying a lot. And Jurado's not very good. I don't have interest in the Rangers.
Yeah, I don't have much interest in either team, honestly. If you get to Trout or Ohtani, clearly those are fully functional spots. I feel like I should have more interest in the Angels. They're just not a team that's coming up. They're my 9th ranked team, so that usually slips through the cracks unless the opposing pitcher is getting a bunch of ownership or ownership is wonky on that team. And right now, that's just not the case. Alrighty. 11 up and down. Kind of a weird slate. That Cole, Scherzer, even Syndergaard, Odorizzi dynamic at the top, where they are projected for 100% ownership exactly. The 4 of those guys. And I have what amounts to 0. So
I expect those. I just expect that to change through the day. Not you, obviously, but the ownership projections.
Do you think that it really changes from that aggregate total, though? I mean, I agree that Scherzer moves, but does it just go to Cole and Odorizzi and Syndergaard instead?
I think it comes down a bit because Cole's 1,200 more than Scherzer. Like Scherzer at 11K, if he were full strength, is getting 40 to 50% ownership. Cole's never getting 40 to 50% on the slate against Tampa.
By the way, YouTube chat seems to be on one right now. I think we're making big mistakes by targeting pitchers in Miami.
Hang on. I didn't hear the beginning of what you said.
YouTube chat is on us a bit because we can't stop targeting pitchers in Miami.
You mean where the Marlins play in a good pitcher's park?
Yeah.
I don't even care about the park that much. Like baseballs fly out of everywhere these days, but the Marlins still play there.
People blindly looking at facing Miami or run totals and keep playing opposing pitchers.
It hasn't worked out well the last couple of days with 21 from Gray and 24 from Castillo. That's for sure.
No, Castillo is a bust. That's the understanding I'm getting right now.
Oh, I mean, he gave up 5 earned runs. He still scored 24 points.
Right. People never learn. Stop targeting the Marlins at home. If I have to learn that, I am going to be losing money like crazy.
I'm really interested now to see what their actual numbers are at home.
I'm sure they're putrid.
Which is something that I would never care about. But
make sure you filter it by just the data points that make your argument better, though.
Yeah,
like
I don't.
This past week or just on Wednesdays or something stupid.
The Marlins at home this season have. Where are they? Oh, they're at the bottom. That's surprising. A 24.3% strikeout percentage, an 87 WRC plus, and a 293 WOBA.
Whew.
To go with their 128 ISO, which is the worst of any team in baseball at home.
Fade.
To be fair, their 87 WRC plus is better than the Tigers and Giants in their home parks.
Well, there you go, man. They're not even the worst team. You guys know. Craziness. Oh, God.
No edge in DFS.
Yeah.
Everyone sharp.
Honestly, our only battle is the rake.
Yeah.
So that's the only competition. Edge isn't going anywhere. Just whoever's taking the most off the top is the actual winner. We just happen to be in the middle.
Right.
We're not the bottom. That's all that matters. Guys, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and play pitchers against the Marlins in Miami. Please don't listen to YouTube chat. That's terrible advice. Play pitchers. Honestly, and I mean this sincerely, you can pretty much do it blindly.
Yeah.
I don't really need to know the name of the pitcher. The price is helpful. The actual talent level of the pitcher is mostly meaningless to me.
The nuance here is that is more so the ownership projection on said pitcher than the talent level of said pitcher.
Absolutely. If you give me the price and the ownership, you don't have to tell me who's on the mound.
Right.
I'm good after that. I'll figure it out. Like button. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. 5 p.m. Eastern. Adam is back with Laffy and the boss man, Alex Baker. Alex's last show for this week for the deeper dive, so you want to tune in for that one. Jake and I live before lock from 6 to 7, and then I get to sign off of here, eat a pork chop, and then watch Dave Chappelle's new special. Sounds like a fantastic Wednesday. Even the pork chop spot. They're going to be equally fantastic. Adam, anything else?
No, that's it.
All right. Thanks, guys, for joining us. We'll talk to you later.